Good morning, Matt Waldman. How are you this fine day, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Harris.
Hi, I'm Bob Harris. This is Matt Waldman. This is the Feel It or Fuck It podcast. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming by. We are heading into the second week of June, mandatory minicamp week. There will be things going on. We've got some resolution on at least one issue we need resolution on. I need resolution on a different issue, though, Matt Waldman. Where are my Dynasty rankings and projections?
Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working on some final things. Should take me 2 or 3 hours today to wrap up. And they should be ready late tonight. If not, the absolute deadline will be early tomorrow morning. So I would say if you're looking for the worst case scenario, if you're a worst case scenario person, then when you wake up tomorrow morning and you've subscribed to this already, it'll be the link and password to get the June update will be in your inboxes tomorrow morning, probably before 6 a.m. If you're an optimist and you're hopeful, you might get them tonight. We'll see.
My experience is that Matt Waldman of the rookie scouting portfolio, whether it's the rookie scouting portfolio, the dynasties content, whatever it is, he delivers as promised, except a little ahead. So promise, over deliver.
It's the German heritage in me that 20 minutes early is on time.
You went to Tom Coughlin. TC time is what we're on around here.
Yeah.
5 minutes before whatever time is supposed to happen.
Set your fucking Werthers. That's what I want to know.
Set your clock 5 minutes ahead and then be 5 minutes early. Matt Waldman at Matt Waldman on the X and the Blueski. I am at Football Diehard on both those various platforms. And others to go nameless or not. I don't know. Part of my fanfare this morning, and this is all I get. All right, then, let's dive in. I mentioned we had a little resolution heading into the mandatory portion of the minicamp affairs of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is now a known fact. Aaron Rodgers is officially a Steeler. He signed a deal making very reasonable money for the Steelers, and not as much for him, but I don't think he cares at this point. Past his physical, he's not going to move from a fantasy. We've been talking about him for a few weeks now. We've kind of sussed this out, but I don't think we'll see him moving to the top 24 at the position. But it has a lot of people excited about DK Metcalf. Matt Waldman, are you one of those people? Feel it or fuck it?
I'd say if we're going to say, you just got to see a little bit of a spreadsheet flash across the screen here as we if you were watching this on YouTube, that's you can freeze that and see what you want if you do. But that's about the extent of me flashing people, so don't worry. But I will say this: am I Jason Wood excited about it? The esteemed football guys writer who's thinking on our message board 150 targets. I'm not quite there. But I think
he's cooling down a little bit, though, just to be fair.
Okay, cool. So,
maybe because you cooled him down. But.
I don't know. But Wood and I think we both do a good job of, giving each other counterpoint on stuff, because there are certainly times where I've been hot and bothered about something. He goes, hey, might want to slow down on that one, and go, yeah, that's some good reasoning. So Metcalf is, I think if you're looking at Metcalf as, say, the target leader, the reception leader, the yardage leader, and probably one of the top 2 to 3 in touchdowns, absolutely he's going to be that for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think that we have to understand that he's not an all-around great route runner. And when you see his history with Seattle, when they tried to use him every which way they could, his catch percentage dipped below 60%. So he's not a great all-around route runner. But with what they're going to do with him to win at the boundary, to work across the middle, I think you're going to get probably 120, 130 targets out of him, probably 1,100 yards and 6 to 8 scores. I think, and the scores could go up. So if the scores go up, then maybe you're looking at a top 12, maybe even top 5 finish if he's amazing in the touchdown department. But I don't think he's a primary say, Nico Collins is a primary, because the route running skills aren't as fully fleshed out.
DK Metcalf would beg to differ, sir. But I'll say this: if you're comparing ADPs, obviously Nico Collins
DK Metcalf can't catch me. That's because he can't find me. But
DK Metcalf going as wide receiver 27 right now. Expect that to change. I think Jason Wood now has bumped him up to his wide receiver 17. I think that's fair. A wide receiver 2, mid-range wide receiver 2.
Absolutely, that's great.
Perfectly reasonable, and you'll be getting him there probably most likely unless you're drafting with some Yinzas and they get a little over enthusiastic about this. I'm fine with him at that price. I don't want to overstate the case. Don't think I'm moving him up into wide receiver 1 territory. People, be careful there. Feel it or fuck it, though. Feel it or fuck it favorite Calvin Austin the third will be a fantasy relevant player this season.
Well, we're going to be on brand, aren't we? Of course we're feeling that. No, I think we are, because here's the thing. Austin joined the Steelers during the bleak era that it has been, where there's been no real quarterback to mention. So he hasn't really played with a quarterback who throws the ball well over the middle, who makes multiple reads within structure. Russell Wilson's okay at that, but he's not great at that. His game is really find the one-on-one on the outside and throw it up and do that as good as anybody in the business, or buy time off structure and then work over the middle on slower developing plays. Austin's going to now have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who can read the middle of the field very well and manipulate it. And he will also throw the contested routes and tight coverage windows. And Austin is good at all that. He's basically what I think New York Giants fans thought they were getting out of Wan'Dale Robinson, but they got a gadget player who, when you give him 120 targets, he's going to average about 7 yards per catch. Austin's more of a guy that could be closer to a prime Randall Cobb. And I think that that's something that, look, Russell Wilson saw a lot of Tyler Lockett, a young Tyler Lockett in him. I think if you take a young Tyler Lockett or young Randall Cobb, you have a similar type of player. And I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to exploit that. So for me, I'm trying to be conservative with my excitement about this because, I'm an Austin fan. But I'm thinking somewhere in the range of 75, 80 targets, close to 50 receptions, maybe more, and close to 800 yards and 5 scores. And I think that that's enough to say wide receiver 3 territory. And then if he really starts to take off, maybe he could become a wide receiver 2 in this offense. It's going to depend really on whether or not Robert Woods has anything left,
right,
or if Roman Wilson, the hype in OTAs, really builds into something substantial. My guess is that Rodgers will spread the ball around pretty well like he did in 2022 with the Packers, where he had one guy over 100 catches, and that was Alan Lazard. And then everybody else was split up, and he even made Randall Cobb, an older Randall Cobb, look reasonably substantial for one final year. And I think that Austin can be better than that.
So since you've decided Aaron Rodgers is the best thing since sliced bread, or at least the best quarterback in Pittsburgh since Terry Bradshaw, or at least can spell cat if you spot him, the C and the P. I don't know.
Who, Terry?
No, Aaron.
Oh, okay. Because I bet he can spell turkey though. I bet Terry Bradshaw can spell
Terry
turkey.
Bradshaw can spell joke, and he thinks Aaron Rodgers is the punchline. So,
well, there you go. He thought Elway was too.
This is true. Finally, Rodgers helps Pat Freiermuth reach his full fantasy potential. Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, I'm feeling this. I'm absolutely feeling this. I've been a Pat Freiermuth fan, watching him on film, and when you saw what he did with Ben Roethlisberger as a rookie, especially in the red area, he was excellent. And Aaron Rodgers is going to trust Pat Freiermuth because he knows that I think Freiermuth is the one guy on this team. If there's anybody other than Robert Woods, and Woods is not in his prime, but if there's any player in his prime who will be where he's supposed to be and be on the same page with Aaron Rodgers reading defenses, I think it's going to be Freiermuth. And Freiermuth is an excellent contested catch player. I just put it this way. For those of you who remember Heath Miller, and you remember him and understand that he could have been more than a check down option with in an offense that would allow him to be. I think, say, if Heath Miller were in Green Bay, he would have been a 10 to 12 touchdown receiver, tight end. I think Pat Freiermuth has a real good chance to be in the double digits as a touchdown player, and probably be in the 600 to 700 yard range. So you're going to see him return to the top 12 in the tight end rankings.
Couple thoughts here, just on the Aaron Rodgers in general. The angst about whether he would or wouldn't seemed like it was overwrought to me at all times. All the actions the Steelers throughout this entire thing, going back to the NFL draft, right, has been that they expected Aaron Rodgers to sign. You heard reports suggesting that Aaron Rodgers was consulted when George Pickens was moved to Dallas. I think, I know fans get angsty and, they're waiting. Why is he waiting all this time? This is the plan. This was the waiting was part of the plan, right? Just not having him around. You don't need the media circus there. So with that out of the way, yes, he helps Pat Freiermuth. He's going as tight end 19, people. You get into around 12 or 13 of your drafts, you're needing your second tight end. He's a prime target for me, and that's where I've been drafting him. Why I put that in the context of I've felt Rodgers all along was going to be there. That's why Pat Freiermuth is one of my most rostered players in best ball. That price and the expectation where Aaron Rodgers would be his quarterback. In Jacksonville, we have changing of the guard there, Matt Waldman. Liam Cohen in as the play caller and head coach. Grant Udinski, the offensive coordinator there, came over from Minnesota. Cohen, these guys both have resumes of quarterback rehabs, at least in their range of outcomes here. Cohen first worked with Baker Mayfield in Los Angeles when he flew from Carolina to Los Angeles, studying the playbook on his iPad, and he gets there, and Cohen was his guy that worked with him there, and that's when he first started to show the Baker Mayfield that we've seen, so far in Tampa Bay. Then he worked with him also in Tampa Bay. Udinski was with Sam Darnold in Minnesota last year, part of that team, along with Ken O'Connell. Is this the right team to unlock Trevor Lawrence's potential? Feel it or fuck it.
If the offensive line gets the rehab that it looks like, absolutely. Because that's really the big thing for me more than anything else. When you watch Lawrence in the games where he looked like he was turning that corner, 3-4 years ago, when everyone was like, oh, he's going to be elite like we thought he was. It was when they had good offensive line play. And I think that's really the going to be the key for him, is just that if he doesn't have a ton of pressure to have to do superhuman things out of, he's going to be fine, especially when you add in Travis Hunter to the mix. Brenton Strange is in his prime. He's going to get his chance to be what he needs to be. I think that the system will go well for Lawrence because of the play action component with the wide zone and being able to get him out on design looks, throwing on the move. By design rather than by necessity. So yes, I believe that whatever minor things that offensive coordinators and coaches have done to pad their resumes personally, but have helped quarterbacks at least in a moderate layer at best, they'll be able to apply that to Lawrence, who I think was a better talent than Baker Mayfield coming out. It's just about the attitude. And I think Lawrence is as I've had a quarterback coach say to me, he's a different guy, in terms of a personality compared to a lot of quarterbacks, but it's not a bad thing. He's just a little bit of a different thinker. Smart guy, I've heard.
Yeah, Lawrence so he's only completed 27.6 of his percent of his 105 throws he's done of 25 air yards or more, but he's only had 3.36 seconds on that, the 27th most among quarterbacks. So the pass protection is going to be a big deal. The arm is not. I read the following about Lawrence back in 2021. He is the top drawer arm strength to deliver for distance and velocity. That's what Matt Waldman said in the rookie scouting portfolio that year. Got Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown. The Jaguars have the pieces in place to unlock the bazooka. Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, I'm absolutely feeling that. I mean, just between Hunter and Thomas, that's more than enough. And with Brown being a part of that equation, even though people who may not be familiar with Brown in college and see his yards per catch average, and they'd go, what do you mean he's going to unlock that? But if you saw him with Sam Howell in North Carolina, you know that he was the field stretcher for that team. You might even, I'll say this in an odd way, but Parker Washington might be a guy to watch too, just because he's got a little bit of Hines Ward in him. He's not super fast, but he might be the best contested catch receiver on that team. He might be. I'm trying to think of this division right now, and I would probably say outside of Nico Collins, he might be the best contested catch player in that division, as odd as that seems. But, it just depends on, whether he's going to be able to beat out Brown for that third spot. But yes, the weapons are there, and no question.
Yeah. I'll just add this little tidbit. Our colleague Mike Dempsey, my co-host on Sirius XM Fantasy, covers the Jags on a daily basis, has been on the practice field a fair amount. He covers the Jags on a daily basis in Jacksonville. And he says every practice he's seen, Brown's getting hammered with targets. And his colleague, Mike DeRocco of ESPN, would remind you that this tends to be the way it works for Dyami Brown in off seasons versus regular seasons. He looks very good in OTAs and mini camps and less good this season. But that late season run in Washington last year, he did impress, and I think certainly impressed the Jaguars. So, all right. We've seen a number of teams. So, Brian Thomas Jr. was wide receiver 1 over the final 3 games last season. He averaged 25.5 points per game over that span. That's a wide receiver. There's a wide receiver 1 finish in his range of possible outcomes. Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, absolutely feeling that, because if he can get within the range of 12 to 15 touchdowns, I think that the yardage and reception totals that we can expect from him will be enough to get him into that range. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen, but he's high enough on my board that you're picking him as a safe wide receiver 1 in fantasy, just not the number 1 overall guy. I mean, I think 120 targets, 80 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 to 11 touchdowns. I think that's probably the baseline range for him, if you account for the fact that Travis Hunter will probably go over 100 targets as well. And then you can probably look at somewhere between, I think that like Dyami Brown and Parker Washington could combine for 150 targets in this offense as a real possibility. I mean, I think this is an offense. You look at this defense in Jacksonville, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be throwing a fair bit. Now, I might be wrong, and that line holds up and they're able to run the ball a lot more. And if they are able to run the ball if they're able to run the ball about 50 to 70 more attempts than what I'm projecting, then maybe Lawrence is in the low 500s in attempts. But I think he's going to be closer to like 580 in terms of his attempts this year, because I'm not trusting that O-line to completely be there.
Yeah, that seems perfectly reasonable. By the way, the current ADP, the average across the board, Thomas Jr. has slipped just into the second round, right? He and Nico Collins are the first 2 picks of the second round. And if I get Derrick Henry at the end of round 1, and one of those guys are waiting for me in round 2, I am a happy man.
That's or I'm a happy man if I'm at the end of a draft and I get the turn and I just take those 2 fuckers, back to back.
For sure. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
I'd love that.
And by the way, Travis Hunter going as wide receiver 29 right now, feel it or fuck it. Is that a little high, or given maybe the uncertainty about how much he'll be on the field, or are you just saying, fuck that uncertainty? I want that playmaking ability.
Yeah, fuck that uncertainty. I want that playmaking ability. I mean,
wide receiver 3 price.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get you close to 900 yards and 5 touchdowns, probably 60 to 65 catches. That's enough for a wide receiver 3. I think you're paying the price there. There might be other talents that are worth considering in contrast to that. I mean, like, if we're going to look, where'd you say he was going, just real quick?
Wide receiver 29 in round, I want to say.
Yeah, so
round
around 5.
And around 5, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, you're looking, if you don't have a running back yet and you want to take your chances on James Conner, DK Metcalf is probably going a little bit before that. Would I consider Chris Godwin over him? Probably. Patrick Mahomes
Zay
is
Flowers.
sitting there.
There's a better. I think the wide receiver 28 is Zay Flowers. Wide receiver 29 is Travis Hunter. Is this depending on maybe how your build is? If you want like maybe a guy that's going to have a little more even work, and I'm being generous to Zay Flowers here. That would be maybe. I think Flowers would be that for me. I think I'd be playing the upside of Hunter and going for a guy afterward to mitigate the risk. Like you might not like Calvin Ridley, but he's still the wide receiver 1 on a team with maybe a more competent quarterback this year.
I'm a Chris Godwin fan until he dies, so I'm taking Chris Godwin. But I get the Ridley or Flowers option.
Sure, any of those guys.
Any of those guys, I think I would probably consider. I would probably consider Hunter over Ridley just because I don't.
No, I would.
But that's about
I'm saying if I got Hunter, I'd want to come back around and get a guy that I think is going to be a little more steadier producer or have a more certain path to workload. And that's all Ridley is right now. It's like a path to workload guy.
And hell, Waddle is going to be there too because of the bad year he had. And if you look at his track record, if everything gets back on track there, that's a bargain too. Jerry Jeudy might be a bargain. Those are all interesting plays.
And I should just acknowledge, because I did say, noted Brian Thomas was wide receiver 1 over the final 3 games last season. Also, over the final 3 games last season, there was no Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. There are pieces there that should help replace those guys. But I still think that is correct, that a wide receiver 1 overall outcome is inside his range of possible outcomes, even if it's not the most likely end. Travis Etienne Jr. going into a contract year. He and Tank Bigsby delivered running back 3 numbers last year. I think they were 38. 35 and 36. They were one guy apart. Etienne is going as running back 38 right now. Feel that or fuck that. I'll put a little more context on this. Bigsby's still there. Bhayshul Tuten, also the rookie, is there. We'll talk about him in a moment too.
Yeah, I mean it's a great question and especially when you consider the running backs that he's going around. Zach Charbonnet, backup, who may get more time, may not. It's kind of very iffy there. Javonte Williams, kind of iffy whether he'll stay the whole year as a starter. And then you're looking at Ramondre Stevenson after Etienne, who could have he's got competition. So, I mean, from a running back perspective, I think Etienne fits right in there, especially with the fact Liam Cohn said, listen, I don't see all the negatives that people are saying about this kid. We like what we see. And there's and unless you're looking for a tight end around that time, and David Njoku's going around that same spot, I'd consider Etienne there, absolutely. Because, I mean, does Jordan Mason, who's right after him at RB38, have more upside, in my opinion? Absolutely, but he's behind Aaron Jones.
Right. Yeah. Only if they just paid Aaron Jones a pretty big contract for the next 2 years. I mean, their expectation is, but look, Jordan Mason tore them a new one in Minnesota last year. So it's perfectly understandable if you could land him as your backup to an aging superstar, but you just paid the aging superstar too. The other guys in Jacksonville aren't aging superstars. Bhayshul Tuten going as running back 40. Take Bigsby going as running back 43. If you're looking at those prices, 38, 40, and 43, who you feeling and who you fucking?
I'm feeling Etienne there because you're paying a slight discount for a player that sounds like he's going to be the guy. Bhayshul Tuten is the one that everyone wants to be the guy, but if I could have Keon Coleman or David Njoku or,
a Joe Flacco quarterback, David Njoku.
Exactly.
If we're getting closer to the season and some of these things start playing out, I mean, I think that will certainly shift some dynamics.
Or even CJ Stroud at a bargain. I think I'd rather have all those guys than Bhayshul Tuten at this point. And then take Bigsby. I think take Bigsby's on his way out. I mean, I don't know what Mike would say about that from what they're saying, but I'm not feeling it.
I don't know that he thinks anyone's on the way out. I know he's kind of dismissive of the notion that Etienne's going to get traded or moved on, although I think any of those things are impossible if the right circumstances came up. But I don't see what are you going to get for Travis Etienne right now if you're the Jaguars? What are you going to get for Tank Bigsby? I mean, Bigsby would be a guy that they would just move on from, but I think he's better than just moving on fromable, if that's a word I can conjure up.
We can create anything we want, right?
I think I did. I think I called Baker Mayfield Aaron Rodgers earlier too, so I can do whatever the hell I want, people. I'm Bob Harris. So I'm kind of with you there. Like I do have some shares of Bhayshul Tuten. Can you guess why?
Right. Yeah.
The number after the 4 at his 40 speed is probably behind that, but also all the other we ran a very fast 40 people. At the combine, and also all the other measurables were great. He has great size. Does not hold on to the ball well.
But he's promising. He is promising.
Sure. What about LeQuint Allen, who is pretty productive as both a receiver and runner at Syracuse? Long-term future, feel it or fuck it for that guy.
For fantasy, I'd say fuck it. For reality, I'd say feel it. I think he's going to be a nice Kenneth Gainwell-esque type of player who's a little bit sturdier and maybe can give you a little bit more of a, or maybe like a Bilal Powell type of player who can give you some starting weeks as kind of a emergency reserve who comes in to start, but is more likely to have a situational role in this team. Right now, the Jaguars, Liam Cohen talked about the possibility of wanting to use him in the slot a little bit more, right, and make him a jack-of-all-trades player. Now, I find that fascinating. Maybe they like his blocking a little bit more, but I would say, again, Parker Washington's a pretty nice blocker as a guy in bunch type of sets and that type of work. So I don't know. I feel like that it's a little cloudy to project anything good this year from Quentin.
I think if I come away from this episode of Feel It or Fuck It with anything, is that Parker Washington is Matt Waldman's secret crush. So
he is. I like Parker Washington.
I thought he looked really good late last year.
Yeah, too. We'll see. It's probably nada, but he's a guy I'll definitely be high on my waiver wire lists.
I just want, not to extend this too much, but I just wonder, I don't want to overstate the fact that we're, not entirely certain. I think back to James Gladstone, the GM, talking about Travis Hunter's role. And basically he just said, look, there's going to be weeks where he's more defense and there's going to be weeks where he's more offense. And I think when I'm plotting out my fantasy team, I would like to know for sure that it's going to be more of one or than the other at any given week. Unless I'm getting IDP points for him, then I don't give a rat's ass. I'll take it all. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Some of the other pieces that are going to be super cheap values, free square plays, and best ball. I'm all about those kind of plays. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. You might have heard of him. He's not a free square play. He says the deep ball is the key to unlocking the Chiefs' offense again. Mahomes dropping bombs and beating his quarterback 6 ADP. Feel it or fuck it, Matt Waldman.
I'm feeling that. I'm feeling it because I don't think he would say that they want to go deep on defenses. I mean, everyone says they want to go deep on defenses, but I think him making a point about that.
One thing to say it and be able to do it. It's another thing to say it and having done it before, so we've seen it with our own eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that teams specifically tried to stop all this, and they succeeded. But also, if you look at the talent that they had, they didn't have anybody outside of Tyreek Hill to really make people pay. And I think with Xavier Worthy and maybe Marquise Brown, they might have that chance to do that again, or they figured out some things that they think they can do against the umbrella coverages to make that happen this coming year. And I think that I don't know if I'm paying the Patrick Mahomes ADP price to do that because of just the nature of quarterbacks in fantasy football, but I am paying the price for Xavier Worthy in this situation, so that there's an opportunity to maybe take him and see that he makes the best of the situation.
Okay, so you mentioned Worthy. Let's run through the receivers. Rashee Rice appears to be on track to return to full speed. He had some video he put out of himself early in April. He looked great. He's been working fully in the OTAs. Patrick Mahomes has been very complimentary. He says he looks like he's everything he needs to be. Wide receiver 20. Feel it or fuck it.
If that's true, I would definitely feel it. I'm a little worried about what they're all saying, only from the standpoint that Brandon Angelo, who's my co-host on our Going Deep show, who's a trainer, says it's one thing to do the speed videos and to be doing all the workout videos. It's another to have the equivalent of someone taking an aluminum bat to your knee and leg for 16 weeks and having just gotten it back into shape, that it's still not going to be as structurally sound to handle all that. So I'm going to probably say fuck it, as much as I like Rice.
So that being the case, Worthy's available 4 picks later at 24. It had the nice late season rise. Are you buying into that late season rise? Is that he is going to be a thing? And would you feel more comfortable spending your wide receiver 24 pick on him than your wide receiver 20 pick on Rice?
I'm totally feeling that. I'm feeling a little less than I wanted to when I heard that they want to use him as a return specialist because they think he's a great return specialist. But I can see Worthy winding up being the receiving leader on this team, especially if Rice doesn't come back to full strength. And I have Rice right now as more of a closing in on 60 catches for about 550 yards and a few touchdowns, and only playing about half the season. Now, that's probably an overly dour estimate. I admit that. Right now, I have Worthy being the leader because of that, probably catching closer to 125 targets, 75, or having 125 targets, catching about 75 of them, and getting 1,100 yards and closing in on double-digit touchdowns. And then maybe adding 100 yards and a couple touchdowns as a runner. So I see this as the breakout year for Xavier Worthy. Probably it's going to be somewhere in between if I am going to walk Worthy back and move Rice forward a little bit. Don't know if I'm going to do it, but to me, Worthy's worth that price more than anybody on the Chiefs roster.
Hollywood Brown, wide receiver 58. If you miss out on the other wide receivers there, is that like is a round 12, flyer at Marquise Hollywood Brown a worthy endeavor for you? No pun intended.
I mean, if he's the best of the lot in that range, I would say yes, but I'm probably betting there are guys I find more appealing just because.
Rashid Shaheed?
Nah, probably
Christian
not.
Kirk?
Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt. Just because.
Luther Burden the third?
Oh, God, yes. Okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's almost not fair.
Yes, that's right. The catnip. Or a bone. But I'll put it this way. I mean, Brown, to me, he just had, you look at him and his career history says he doesn't stay healthy for a full set of the season. It's not about predicting injury. It's just predicting availability. And he's been predictably unavailable. So I see him also more as the over-the-middle type of guy that they wanted Sky Moore to be, which means, you're looking at maybe if he stays healthy, 40 to 50 catches for 500 to 700 yards and 5 to 6 touchdowns. That would be a really good year for Brown. But I think most people still have in their mind's eye what he did with Lamar Jackson as a rookie, and they're still hoping for that. I don't think we're ever going back to those days.
I don't want to analogize here a little bit, but like Luther Burden, the third people, is Matt Waldman's to Matt Waldman what 4.4 sub 4.4 running back speed is to me. Boing.
Hey, listen, I'm good with that. I'm feeling that.
I don't want to get into Travis Kelce too much. I mean, he's going at a reasonable price. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes says he looks better than he ever has because everyone looks better than they ever have. It is interesting, I mean, every year he's been a top 10 tight end, like since last 11 seasons, including last year he was top 10. So, and many of those seasons were tight end one. So if you get out in that tight end 8 range, I'm fine with that. I want to talk about Isaiah Pacheco instead, though. Talked a little bit about it this week that he is getting back to his combine numbers. That includes a sub 4.40, 4.37, 216 pounds. He opened last season with 19 carries, followed up with 15 carries, broke the leg. We saw him come back. He never got, more than 5 carries. I want to say no more than 5 carries in any of the playoff games. So the Chiefs obviously acknowledged that, hey, he wasn't back to full speed. He may be this year. Is running back 29 the price to find out? Feel it or fuck it?
Oh, feeling that completely.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's no worse than an 800-yard rusher, and probably no worse than 1,100 yards total. And looking at probably 7 to 8 touchdowns in that mix, that's great for the 29th running back off the board. I'd take it.
All right. Just a couple of little sidelights here. Mike McDonald had to give the dreaded vote of confidence to Sam Darnold this past week. Like it's June and we're giving votes of confidence. Had a bad practice, had 2 interceptions over 3 plays in red zone drills. McDonald all in on Darnold. Are we sleeping on his fantasy value? It's going very late, or are we just embracing for the inevitable letdown? Feel one, fuck one.
I'm gonna feel the idea that he's underrated. I don't think he's like Minnesota Sam Darnold this year, but he won't be that far away. And I think that we have to understand that he's a bridge starter to probably Jalen Milroe. That's likely what will happen.
Up the bridge is 4 games, said my dynasty shares.
Yeah, I think the bridge is going to be 17. And I think that I'm usually wrong about this because I'm trying to preach patience. But I would say if I'm going to be pessimistic on my own projections, the bridge is 10 to 12 games.
Quarterback 28. I'm gonna invest quarterback 28 value in.
I'm taking that all day.
I'm investing Clint Kubiak at that price and not the player.
And there's a more important note that you just brought up, and to set this up with Darnold, it's practice. And he's new to the team, and he has new receivers, and he has a couple receivers who are also new to the team. So, and it's a new scheme for everyone. So people need to calm the fuck down about that when it comes to practice. It's like when I read about Noel Williams, the Kansas City cornerback, and I literally read an Athlon website thing, and I'm not going to pick on the writer because he this is normal across the board, and it's probably his editor who wrote the subtitle. They basically said that he got brutal feedback in OTAs. The feedback was that his head was spinning a bit, and in terms of what he was supposed to be doing, and it's normal for a lot of rookies to have your head spinning.
I'll just say this: brutal in a headline is an AI word. Get used to it. People are going to see a lot of it. A lot of high value shock kind of words to get your attention. I think that price alone
AI is fucking brutal when it comes to doing that. I'll just say
grow up, Matt.
I'm not growing up. Call me Peter.
Hetero McMillan getting serious praise from Adam Thielen. Does he belong in the top tier of this year's rookie wide receiver class for redraft formats? He's wide receiver 24, fielder, fuck it.
Wide receiver 24 in redraft. I'd say fuck that. Mainly because this is the time.
Mainly because Adam Thielen, you can get him as a wide receiver 112 or something, or 60 something.
Yes, and Hunter Renfrow coming back from colitis might actually work his way back into the mix. Jalen Coker is still a nice player that they're looking at. I could see that Bryce Young will probably spread the ball around because I think that's what he's pretty good at. And we just have to remember shorts and T-shirts is the time where Tet McMillan is probably going to look his best because he's not going to have to work a ton against tight man coverage to get separation. And that's where I think it comes down to for him is that when he starts to take off even a little bit early in the season, when teams adjust and say we're going to have to play this guy tight man, will he work past that, or will that where his game stalls? I mean, I think he's going to give you probably 600 yards this year, and that's not bad, 4 touchdowns, but it's not top tier.
I think for me, if Adam Thielen's going around 14, I'm going to probably take that value. I don't expect him to, put up numbers like he did last year, even late last year or the year before where he was very solid. But at that price, I'll be taking that, and I'll be looking for other targets in that wide receiver 24 range that McMillan is going for the most part. We'll wrap it up with that. I think it's interesting. You mentioned Hunter Renfrow has been getting rave reviews so far in OTAs, as often people do in their short pants. So we'll see if anything comes of that. Otherwise, we'll come back next week. You will look in your mailboxes, people, your inboxes on your computers if you or just need that advice for the rookie scouting portfolio, the dynasty rankings and projections will be coming to your mailbox from mattwaldman.com. Yeah. You should go there and buy that if you haven't done that already.
It will be to clarify for some of you who heard that, just so some of you who get specific, it'll be a link with a password for you to access it. Download it, and you can get it on your phone. You can get it in any format.
Follow the instructions, people. It's not hard.
Yeah, a Raven won't be dropping it off in there. A crow might.
That's how it works.
A crow might, but a Raven won't. Yeah.
I think the Raven actually comes to my house. That's contractually stipulated. All right, Matt Waldman. Love you. Goodbye. Talk to you next week.